Demons are real, and today we have the video to prove it. Don't believe me? Stay tuned and I'll prove you wrong. Question before we dive in: what qualifications do you consider necessary to prove a video valid? Let me know in the comments and let's see if I can meet them with what I found. How about we kick off today with a demonic pinata shop? I know, sounds very Five Nights at Freddy's. Bear with me here. Mario Landa, the owner of said party shop, was terrorized by a demon after it became attached to a particular one in his store. At first, the haunted pinata would be on the floor in the morning when Mario arrived to open the shop, and then workers started finding it in other places, so the shop was outfitted with security cameras to solve the mystery. Late one night, the cameras captured a bizarre clown face with scraggly hair and dark eyes, big dark ones, rising from a pile of pinatas. Another night, a pinata was captured as it spun out of control. Something demonic was inhabiting the store. Now, in one of the clips, you can see what appears to be a ghost, or the presence of a being, that throws a pinata, like just chucks it. Now, this footage was originally uploaded to Facebook, and then the very popular travel channel show Paranormal Caught on Camera decided it needed to be talked about more and featured it. And I promise you, this won't be the only story from that show that I talk about today. Next up, we have footage from 2020. Okay, before anybody panics, I'm talking about the American news magazine that's been broadcasted on TV since June of like 1978. Not the awful year. Now, if we're talking years, on April 5th of 1991, the show featured a segment that showed an actual Roman Catholic ritual of casting out demons. Videotaped at a nun's home in suburban Palm Beach County, the segment shows an affected girl, referred to only as Gina, as she thrashes under the effect of ancient prayers. What's happening? Well, she's sprinkled with holy water, there's a cross being pressed to her head, and what's she doing? Well, retching, writhing, yowling, baring teeth. Get out of here, me not want to leave. She's shrieking all of that at the priest, as one hand snaps the gauze bonds tying her to the chair. If the exorcism team hadn't tied Gina down, she might have levitated to the ceiling. Now, at the time, the March 25th issue of US News and World Report carried no fewer than 5 articles on hell and the devil, citing a poll that 6 out of 10 Americans believed in the netherworld, which is 2% more than in the church heyday of the 1950s. Another poll released in August of the same year said 55% of Americans believe in the devil, 49% in demonic possession. Most Catholic leaders say possession is rare, with Reverend Kenneth Doyle, communications director for the National Conference of Catholic Bishops, stating he's only heard of a handful of exorcisms in the last 40 years. But I think that's just a PR statement. Here's the thing, when churchmen do perform an exorcism, they don't want to talk about it. The main exorcist in any report is only known as Father A, and his face obscured. Sister Lois Schaefer and the Reverend Walton Dockrell of St. Rita Parish near West Palm Beach, who took part in the exorcism that we have the video of today, said through a secretary, no comment. Now, Palm Beach Bishop J. Keith Simmons, who permitted the taping, issued only like a 4-paragraph statement saying the devil really exists. He is powerful and actively at work in the world today, as through the centuries, which echoes Cardinal John O'Connor of New York. Now, it was O'Connor's remark that there can be no question about the reality of the devil that initially drew the interest of the TV show, especially after the church got 75 requests from around the country to investigate possible cases of possession. Who got that sucker of a job? Reverend James Labar, a specialist in the occult, who looked into some of the initial claims and was like, Gina, yeah, you're being tormented by demons. According to the report, she experienced psychotic episodes, visions of demons and dead people. Her mom tried everything. She brought her to hospital, she brought her to specialists. Didn't do anything. Now, at the footage, the priests say the girl was controlled by 10 evil spirits. They meet her violent reactions by following the prayers and gestures of that rite. This whole ordeal to try and banish the demons? 6 hours, which apparently isn't uncommon for exorcism lengths. Now, before the procedure even took place, Father A mentioned how it's a terrifying experience. He could die tomorrow, or be attacked and taken over. Evil spirits like to take their sweet time leaving a body, and not without a fight, and that leaves everybody involved drained, exhausted, and not doing so well in the health department. Also quoted is Dr. Warren Schlanger of the Miami Hospital, where Gina was treated before and after the exorcism, and he's like, yeah, she got better afterwards. Well, after the exorcism, but she was still pretty weak. Father A, he wasn't doing so hot afterwards. He believes the devil is disturbing his sleep because it wants to weaken and destroy him, which he just considers that the price he has to pay as the church's point man against demons. Now, the footage that we have today, the church actually tried taking it down because they don't want it to be public anymore, but don't worry folks, I got you. I think it's time for me to talk about my favorite creepy demonic doll, Annabelle. So back when I was in high school, I actually got to portray her, local haunted house, whole thing. What we're talking about today, the folks over at the Overnight YouTube channel were granted permission to stay overnight in Ed and Lorraine Warren's museum, which is unheard of. But thankfully for us, they captured their experience on a variety of recording devices, making a very long series going in depth that I totally recommend watching. But if you don't feel like spending a couple of hours doing so, don't worry, that's what I'm here for. So one thing I'd like to point out is how Annabelle decided to mess around on camera. I think if we're looking at timestamps, it was 58:29. Her eyes are pretty small, and they move a little bit, which she's a rag doll, that's not supposed to happen. But then at 58:52, when the camera is panned back to her, her eyes are back to normal, and like double the size in comparison to the first time slot. Now, when user Mason8363 mentioned this in the comment section, I thought it had to be like a trick of the light or something, so I went back and I took some screenshots on my phone. And what do you know, I didn't need them. I could tell clear as day that Annabelle's eyes had grown. And once again, folks, that's not supposed to happen. Now, if you're like, okay, who's Annabelle? What's going on with this? Why is she demonic? Don't worry. I know the story off by heart pretty much. The real story, that is, not the Hollywood movie, which we love. Donna and Angie were student nurses, good friends, sat at a room together while in school, and for Donna's 28th birthday, her mom gifted her a very large Raggedy Ann doll. And she was thrilled, which, like, so would I be. Give me dolls any day. Soon after adopting the precious doll, Donna started to notice some weird behavior and weirdness going on in the apartment. She would leave Annabelle in her bed every morning behind her locked bedroom door, seating her the same way with her arms and legs crossed, and would come home at night to Annabelle having moved rooms and in positions that weren't possible. She's described a few instances of the doll kneeling, and once again, stuffed dolls can't kneel. They don't have the joints for that. Donna and Angie then started finding notes left throughout the apartment written on parchment paper and red pen, which they didn't own parchment paper or red pens. When Donna's boyfriend Lou started criticizing the doll, because guys, dolls, stereotypes, unexplainable handprints and scratches began appearing on his body. And that's when the girls were like, okay, we need a priest. And then the priest brought in the Warrens. Before that, they had brought in a medium who had told them that there was a ghost attached to the doll, Annabelle Higgins. Turns out that was false. Ed came in and was like, that's a demon. So he got the doll out, calmed it down, brought it home. Not without its trials and tribulations, though. Annabelle's gotten up to some stuff over the years. And ever since, she's been one of the many demonic items that live in the museum. I can't even imagine what kind of a hotbed that place is, because Ed and Lorraine had the common sense to keep demonic items from being released back into the world. But now that they've passed away, I can't say the same about their son-in-law, Tony Spera. He seems like he's doing anything for a quick buck and sensationalism, and that's not safe. So when you're a 911 dispatcher and things go weird, who do you call? Because you can't call Ghostbusters and, well, you're the emergency services. This video comes from a dispatcher who was alone in her office and she heard some knocking. This comes from a dispatcher who was alone in the office one night when she heard some knocking, some other strange sounds, and she saw some really weird shadows. She recorded the activity with her phone over the course of like a week. One night, as she stared down the hallway, she saw a tall, dark figure leaning out of the break room and looking towards her. And as she screamed, it ducked into the room. The dispatcher slammed the door shut, called for police to check the building, and there was nobody there. So yes, this was another video that was showcased on Paranormal Con on camera, and it took me a while to validate this one. When I was watching it, I was like, okay, we got nothing. I was about to click off, and then I saw the mysterious figure in the doorway. And I was like, okay, maybe it's just a lighting trick. And then I realized, I'm like, oh no, this is not a lighting trick. This is not something anybody would want to fake. This is terrifying. Absolutely not. And finally, to end off today, we're consulting some experts who explored an abandoned nursing home. The spine-tingling 2-minute clip begins innocently enough with the two adventurers who go by the name Finders Beepers History Seekers here on YouTube, and they were exploring the really icky interior of a dilapidated building. You know, like any regular ghost hunting show. And as they were standing in the laundry room, their equipment picked up some stuff that sounded like a young girl answering their questions. And as they walked through a stairwell, one of the men spotted something from the corner of his eye on the landing above them. Now the entity walked away and the guys thought it was just somebody else in the building. And they were like, okay, whatever. They didn't think it was anything spectral. They thought it was just like a homeless person, another explorer. Then, they went up and investigated for themselves. And they realized the only thing in the direction in which the figure moved through was a wall with a hole too tiny to escape through. It also led to a steep drop-off from the top floor of the freaky facility. So there was no way anybody could have gotten back across the top of the stairs without these two guys capturing it on camera. And the footage shows there was nowhere for anybody to go. Which, terrifying. Because I saw it and I was like, okay, yeah, it's like a homeless guy. And then it's very much not. Dubbed the nursing home from hell, this building used to house dozens of people before it was forced to close in 2015 for employing criminals, keeping patients in bad conditions, you name it. And that's it for me once again, folks. I've been Alexa, your resident ookie spooky girly, and I'll see y'all next time, you lovely spooky people.